Hey, welcome back to the Next.js 14 series. In this video, we're going to build on what we did in the last episode, where we set up our Postgre using Supabase and Drizzle ORM. Now that we've got our database ready and we already know how to retrieve and create data from the database using Drizzle, it's time to perform proper CRUD operations, or create, read, update, delete. So let's get started. Before we continue, I want to show you my route.ts inside the API/users folder. It's now way more compact, right? So we made our own response function, cResponse. Also made a handle error function. We made it in the utils.ts inside the lib folder. Now handle error is pretty simple. We just take the error as parameter and check for different cases and just return the next response. But cResponse is completely a different thing. I already have a separate video and blog explaining both cResponse and cfetch that you can find in the description below. Now let's move forward. As we'll be doing proper CRUD operations, I also made another schema to update the user inside user.ts. Before we dive into the API routes or pages, I also made a file to import all the icons that we'll need for this video and also may need for others. Now let's make the API routes first. As to update, view or delete a user, we need to fetch the user by ID. We're gonna make a dynamic route inside the API/users as ID inside third brackets, and inside it we're gonna make a route.ts file. First of all, we're gonna get the specific user. So we're gonna write export async function get. Obviously inside it we're gonna write rec as next request. We're gonna make an interface named context. Inside it we're gonna write params. The name always has to be params, and then inside it we're gonna name the folder name. So it was ID, that's why we're writing ID, and as string. Now after the request with next request, we're gonna give a comma and write ctx as context. Inside it, we're obviously gonna give the try catch, and for the catch block, we're just gonna write return handle error with error. Now for the try block, first of all, we're gonna destructure ID from ctx.params. Next up, obviously we're gonna find for the user. So constant existing user equals to await db.query.users.find first. Inside it, we're gonna match the ID. So where eq users.id, id. Now if there is no existing user in our database, we're gonna throw an error with user not found. Last up, we're gonna send the user by parsing with safe user schema as a response with cResponse. And that's all for the get request. Next up, we're gonna make the update one. So we're gonna write export async function patch. Similar to the get one, we're gonna write rec and ctx. Inside it, we're gonna write try catch, and for the catch block, we're gonna return handle error with error. Now for the try block, first of all, we're gonna destructure ID from the params, similar to the previous one, and then we're gonna get the body. So constant body equals to await rec.json. On the next line, we're gonna parse it using the update user schema imported from the validation. Now, first of all, we're gonna check for the user. If there is no user, we're gonna throw another error with user not found. So if there is username, we're also gonna check whether there is another user with the same username. This query is gonna be a bit complex than the other ones. We're gonna import and ne, that stands for not equal, from Drizzle ORM. So inside the where, we're gonna write and ne users.id, id, and eq users.username, username. Now on the next line, if we find a user, we're just gonna throw an error with username already exists. Similar to creating a user, we're gonna write constant updated user equals to await db.update. Inside it, we're gonna call the table, and after that, we're gonna write .set. Now here we're gonna pass the body as username. So .where eq users.id, id. Next up, similar to how insert works, this will now return us the updated user. So we're gonna write .returning, and obviously .returning will return us the user inside an array. We're gonna wrap it inside first bracket and give op0. Now we're gonna send the response by parsing it to safe user schema .parse with updated user. And that's for the patch. Last up, we're gonna have the delete function. So export async function delete, similar to the previous one, rec and ctx. Inside it, the try catch. Inside the catch, we're gonna have the handle error. And for the try block, we're gonna destructure the ID again. Now again, we're gonna check for the existing user. And if we do not find it, we're gonna throw an error with user not found. Lastly, we're gonna delete the user. So await db.delete of users, then where with eq users.id, id. So last up, we're gonna send the response as message with OK. And that's all for all the routes. Now let's jump to making the pages. So inside the app, we're gonna go to users and go to page.tsx. I've changed a lot of things. First of all, instead of using generic fetch, we're actually using cfetch with response data and passing the generic safe user data as an array. As we have users already properly typed, we don't need to worry about manually inferring the type. So we're just mapping the users like always, but this time we're actually having a button. So the first button will be a view button that will push us to the users/u /user.id. And next up the button with the trash icon to delete the existing user. So the delete user actually triggers the mutation, this use mutation hook. So first of all, we're triggering the onMutate with deleting user toast. Next up, on the mutation fn, we're sending a request to /API/users/the ID. Now the ID is coming from the parameter. The parameter is being passed over here with user.id. Now the method is obviously going to be delete because in the route.ts, we're actually handling the delete method. So if the ifData.longMessage, we're just going to throw the long message error. Next up, for the onSuccess, we're just going to write user deleted with the toast ID from the context. And once the user is deleted, we're going to refetch the existing data, which comes from the use query of users. Now for the on error, we're going to return a toast error with error.message and the ctx.toastID. And that's it for the page.tsx of the table. Let's now visit the create page. The only thing in the create page that has changed is we're using cfetch instead of fetch. Now let's go to the use/dynamic_id route, which is the page.tsx. So first of all, we're actually using the use query to get the user via the ID that we provided in the params. So this time we're actually setting the key as user, ID. So this ID is obviously going to be dynamic and we're setting a constant key as user. Next up with the query fn with cfetch obviously properly typed with return data.data and inside the route API users ID. Now we're going to initiate a form with use form and update user data. Inside it, we're going to use the Zort resolver with update user schema and default values as username with user.username. Now we'll come to the mutation later. So for now, let's check out the form. So we're checking whether there is user or not. If there is no user, we're just going to return a no user found with the button of go back. Now if there is user, we're going to render the form. So the form with the form element as props. Now the form field has the form.control, name as username, and for the render, we're rendering the username with input and placeholder as user.username. Next up, for the card footer, first of all, we're rendering update button. Next up, a go back button. And that's it. Now for the form submission, we're triggering a mutation using this update user function. Inside the mutation, first of all, we're actually sending a toast with updating user. Inside the mutation function, we're taking the values as update user data that has the username conditional inside it. Now we have to patch the data, right? So sending a request to API users ID with method patch and body as JSON.stringify of values. Now if there is data.longMessage or there is error, we're going to throw the error. And lastly, we're going to get the data and return it over here. Now on the onSuccess, we're returning a toast with user updated and we're going to change the navigation to /users. For the on error, we're sending an error notification with error.message and ctx.toastID. And that's it for the mutation. Now let's actually run it. So in the previous video, we had two users, right? Now this time we have a view button and a delete button. So instead of deleting or updating this one, we're going to create a new user. So we're going to write test3 with the password. So the user over here, right? We can visualize the user or edit it directly from here. This loads the user edit page. We can actually change the username to test4 and just hit update. Look, we have the test4 as the username. Now we can also try it changing to test1. We have an error with the username already exists. Now let's try deleting the test4. So we're going to hit delete and look, the user is deleted from the table. And there we have it. We have successfully set up our database with Superbase and Drizzle ORM. In the next video, we'll dive into authentication using Superbase inbuilt auth system. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to stay updated. But before I finish up, I want to let you in on something exciting. If you're enjoying the content and want to support me, you can join my Patreon at patreon.com/itsdrvgo. As a subscriber, you'll get early access to all my videos a day or two before they go public on YouTube. Plus, you'll be able to see exclusive behind the scenes, get sneak peeks of upcoming projects, and much more. It's a great way to stay ahead of the curve and get involved in shaping future content. Also, if you have any questions or need help with anything we covered, don't hesitate to join our Discord server. I'm active there, and it's the best place to connect with me and the community. You'll find the link in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.